possessions and so on?
I think they were more contented with their lot. They knew they weren't going to have anything much more different from what they were. They lived within their means, and they were quite content to garden, have an allotment, grow their own food, make their own cakes and pies, and I think they were sort of resigned to the fact that things weren't going to be any better than they were then, unless they could bring more money. And a lot of fathers were away in the war at the time, so the mothers were the mainstay of the family, and they were quite content to be at home with the children.
Yeah. So the impact of the Second World War must have, in terms of social life, even though it was a huge, massive change in what went on between 1939 and 45 at home, the we're all in it together atmosphere must have carried on there for quite a long time after that.
Yes, it did. I think the reason that they were more contented was because the only sort of outlet they had was to take the children to the local welfare, and there they would have their social time. And the children would go to Sunday school, where they had their social time, and also the adults. They had more time for the children and would take them and sort of play with their children. And we had lovely outings from the church, because that was our social life, and that would have been the older people's social life, was what went on around in the village.
You can smell my dog.
Yes.
So, when we talk about the church or the town, I've learnt that name for the first time, I get the feeling that congregations were obviously much larger than today. About how many people would go to Sunday school out of the local population of children, do you think?
Probably about 60, I would think.
60%?
Yes.
And the other 40%, that could be a mixture of the fact that they might be atheist, or or parents were less respectable, or anything like that. I've not yet asked anything about crime and the ne'er-do-wells within the area. Can I ask you about that? What was crime like? And were there anybody who were not respectable, and how did people relate to them? You needn't name any names, obviously.
No. There was very little crime in the area. I think the crime was probably just stealing apples from the next door neighbour and things like that. And I know as children we climbed through the fence and what we called scrogging the apples.
Oh, right, yeah.
And for a punishment, if we saw the farmer coming across the field, we would just run and climb through the fence as quick as we could. We also had a local policeman who used to patrol the roads, and if you saw Mr. Waite coming, you knew he was the local Bobby. And very little crime.
And thank you. You portrayed a lovely image of a time gone by. And so there were no pockets of worry or anything like that within the community. You felt totally secure wherever you went.
We did feel secure, yes. I mean, parents could let their children wander wherever, and they wouldn't worry about them. They knew we would come back at lunch when we were hungry and things like that. But we walked to school. When I was very young, my sister and my both sisters, we used to walk to King's Court School together, and then when we were 10 we went to Rodborough School, and from Rodborough School we took the 11 plus, and we could go on the little bus that came round King's Court Lane down to Lodgemore, and we walked from Lodgemore down through to the Girls' Technical School, and the high school was over there, and the Marling School, and we walked with no fear.
A long old day, but a kind of happy day.
Quite a very happy day, yes. Walking and talking with friends.
Walking and talking. That's as opposed to my daughters being on the mobile phone when they walk.
Yes, it is. It's the way of the world, isn't it?
Where should we go to now? Not quite sure. Happy, excursions. Any of your outings that you'd like to talk about? You know, where you went and how you got there.
Because most families were poor, the excursions we had were arranged by the Nellie Watts and Daisy Smith, who were our Sunday school superintendent and helper at the Tabernacle. And the favourite one was to go to Barry Island.
All right.
We started out at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we walked into town and had picked up the coach in Stroud, and we were at Barry Island all day, and then we came back and we were home about 10 o'clock at night, and we walked home after the coach dropped us off.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you needn't have anywhere, as I know it was summer, and so there's probably twilight, but again, you didn't have too many worries about walking along dark unlit streets and so on.
No, and we only had very few street lights at the time. And the other one was to walk from here, catch the bus in Stroud to Chalford, walk from Chalford along the canal bank to a place called Sapperton, where there was like a small green, and the river ran through, so we could paddle and have picnics and things like that. That was our outings.
Yeah, wonderful day.
Pick bluebells, and we'd come home with bunches of primroses and things like that.
Oh, you're making me feel quite jealous, having days like that. I can't imagine the boys would come back with flowers though, would they?
No. And then when we were older, of course, we were allowed to ride our bikes, and we would ride from here on a Good Friday morning. We'd come up for a small service in the little chapel, and get on our bikes and ride to Newent, which was the daffodil fields. And we were allowed then to bring home bunches of daffodils for Easter Sunday, which we put in the church for Easter Sunday.
Oh, lovely stories, lovely stories.
Yes.
Back in my day in Swindon, Good Friday was always the traditional day for putting in the potatoes. For men. Was that the same here, sort of thing? Or?
I can't remember that one, but I always knew the men were putting in the kidney beans. I think it was May the 4th. They all had to go in on May the 4th, something like that.
Oh, right, so there was a tradition.
That was a tradition in that way, yes.
Oh, marvellous.
Yes.
Going back to these lovely stories of playing, so would, you know, I sort of grew up with Just William or some Just William stories, so would I'm trying to go into your world, so would boys and girls play absolutely separately, or, you know, when you went off on paddling and all that, was that a girls' outing, or...?
No, I think it was a combined effort, especially if we were going down to the canal, and the boys were said, "No, you make sure the girls don't get into trouble, you know, in the canal." And we would walk down to the viaduct in Stroud, take our jam jars with the string round, and catch sticklebacks and redbreasts and tadpoles and things like that. Down through Rodborough Fields was one of the favourite walks, and down to the viaduct.
Painted such a happy picture of the time gone by. I feel quite as though the picture's not necessarily finished, but I'm not sure if I have any more questions to ask. If you want to add any more now, Barbara, then go ahead. Wherever your memories would like to go.
I think on one of the questions was, which would be your favourite walk?
Good one. Yes.
Well, our favourite walk used to be to walk from